I'm Nathan Gamble, editor of The Economist. This afternoon, the Montreal World Health Organization, known as MonWHO, assembled to combat corruption in healthcare. Most delegations proffered position papers, asserting their commitment. However, in a pre-regional bloc session, approximately 70% of delegates indicated that they would not return an envelope full of money found in a car garage, provided that the deed would remain hidden. Italy bombastically opened the European regional bloc by asserting that more must be done to protect their international aid and called for a minute of silence to remember the victims of international healthcare corruption. Italy could use the reflection. Many hospitals in the country's Calabria region are run by the mafia. More countries should heed the appeals of Ireland and create legislation to protect whistleblowers. Alexander Solzhenitsyn insisted that the line separating good and evil passes not through states nor between political parties, but right through every human heart. The delegates must discuss the source of corruption. Failure to do so will produce a meaningless resolution. This has been Nathan Gamble for The Economist.
Finally, we conclude our report with a sober editorial from The Economist.
This is Nathan Gamble, editor-in-chief of The Economist. Battling corruption is a fight more analogous to Hercules and the Lernaean Hydra than St. George and the Dragon. Severing one head is not enough. On the first day of the Montreal World Health Organization, Russia was eager to address its infamous informal sector.
We do recognize that there is a problem.
Even welcoming suggestions of NATO member states who are acknowledged adversaries.
I do not think that us cooperating on corruption measures with the Western nations necessarily means that we agree with some of their economic standpoints.
This diffidence is rare and commendable. However, reality may be too great an adversary. Russian mafias frequently use Turkey, a long-term NATO member, as a conduit to smuggle pharmaceuticals and weapons to Asia. Turkey has implemented a task force to tighten its internal Asian-European border and is looking for international cooperation.
Turkey sees our role as kind of an intermediate, as we can use the advice and the examples from European countries, but we hope that we can actually lead and help some of the other Asian countries.
Russia ought to avail itself of the opportunity. An anti-corruption partnership with Turkey, as well as its NATO allies, will indicate to the global community, and more importantly to mafias, that Russia has repented of its crimes. Non-governmental organizations and pharmaceutical companies must demonstrate equal commitment. Reports suggest that Merck & Co. bribed Chinese officials and ran drug trials with patients of Médecins Sans Frontières. All parties have denied wrongdoing, and MSF asserts that its physicians were duped. MSF's personnel were involved in a similar incident in Nigeria in 1996. The brunt of the blame lies with the willfully guilty. However, NGOs must work harder to monitor the pharmaceuticals they administer, particularly in regions known for endemic corruption. They must be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. This has been Nathan Gamble for The Economist. This is Nathan Gamble, editor-in-chief for The Economist. A nation can easily speak against corruption. Almost every country does so. Very few lead by example. The United States prides itself on being the leader of the free world. It forgets this is primarily due to military prowess and issuing the global currency.
Oh my God, there it is. There it is. It's made clear that you were bribing the Chinese government.
I did not.
Or you were bribing.
I was bribed by the Chinese government.
That's corruption at its highest degree.
Yeah, not on my part. It's on the part of
You
the
are
Chinese
accepting the
government.
bribe. There's two kinds.
No.
What is it? A dialect?
I've drawn my people
No,
out.
it's let me just tell you exactly. If I could find it, it's a dialect or whatever form of corruption. There's the giver and the one who the receiver, and you are the receiver.
Corruptee and the corrupter. I'm aware of that.
So
However, I've drawn my
did you
people
just
out.
acknowledge that you're the corrupted?
No, I'm acknowledging an ideal that occurs in many situations around the world. I'm not acknowledging
This
it's
is
occurring.
specific to you.
But as the fraud is still a current problem in the U.S., is the U.S. in a position to address other nations and assert that its policies are better than theirs, considering the current fraud the U.S. is dealing with?
We are the most powerful nation in the world. Our policies are better than developing nations and other nations worldwide. So in the event they need help from us, we do have a solidified plan in the form of Obamacare. So if other nations would like to follow in our footsteps or follow our lead, that's fantastic. We are more than happy to provide that insight.
Do you think it's a fair accusation to expect the same of the developing world country and to insist upon that you're such a leader in the field?
I think so.
Nations must acknowledge the flaws in their systems and discuss how they are addressing them before proposing suggestions to other countries. The U.S. needs to remember, pride comes before a fall.
Rolling on, questions arose as to the commitment of our delegates. We go to our correspondent at The Economist for more.
This is Nathan Gamble, Editor-in-Chief for The Economist. In a globalized economy, alliances are appealing. The media looks favorably upon them. Classical economics preaches that the invisible hand brings success to champions of international cooperation. The European Union demonstrates that reality is more convoluted. Australia is eager to form an anti-corruption advisory committee in Asia. South Korea, Japan, and even China quickly supported the seductive appeal proposal. However, no Asian nation consulted the U.S., a disastrous and embarrassing oversight. You haven't directly talked to the U.S. yet about this plan?
No, we have not, no.
America balked at the idea.
States, they feels that they could do whatever it is that they would like to do. I understand that they want to conduct a corruption court. However, the United States does not recognize China's or Russia's or Belgium's political proceedings as legitimate per se. So this alliance we feel will not be affected by any means, and the positive endeavor this alliance is meant to depict is silly in the eyes of the United States.
China, a harlot of international alliances, backed away from the Anti-Corruption Committee when our magazine reminded them that the committee would disclose all findings to international media. Would you be willing to participate in a task force with the United States and its partners?
I think we would be, definitely.
Australia, the press will know whatever Australia is doing. So would you still be willing to be part of a deal with them under those circumstances?
I'm not sure if we would.
China is interested in a veneer of accountability and international cooperation. Actual transparency does not interest them. In the plenary session, MonWHO will not impact healthcare corruption if delegates strive for transient alliances and vain approval. This is Nathan Gamble, Editor-in-Chief for The Economist. History often impairs the functioning of international bodies. Years of distrust prevent countries, particularly world powers such as the United States, Brazil, China, and Russia, from trusting one another.
Representative, I was being nice by providing my iPhone 5 charger because his phone died. I don't think that has anything to do with the conference, so I think we should move on from that and not accuse the United States of bribing anyone. So China, let's not do this. Second of all,
this is not inherently bad and may even be prudent. Drastic, sudden movements in world powers can create instability. However, this situation requires smaller nations to drive discussions. Canada has indicated that it desires to play a larger role and redeem its recently lackluster diplomacy. It has an exemplary record on transparency and a relatively well-run healthcare system. Historically, Canada has had the positive international reputation needed to lead discussions on eliminating healthcare corruption. Canada should lead other smaller countries to make MonWHO's resolution successful. I'm Nathan Gamble, and this is The Economist. This is Nathan Gamble, Editor-in-Chief for The Economist. Battling corruption is a fight more analogous to Hercules and the Lernaean Hydra than St. George and the Dragon. Severing one head is not enough. On the first day of the MonWHO World Health Organization, Russia was eager to address its infamous informal sector.
We do recognize that there is a problem.
Even welcoming suggestions of NATO member states who are acknowledged adversaries.
I do not think that us cooperating on corruption measures with the Western nations necessarily means that we agree with some of their economic standpoints.
This diffidence is rare and commendable. However, reality may be too great an adversary. Russian mafias frequently use Turkey, a long-term NATO member, as a conduit to smuggle pharmaceuticals and weapons to Asia. Turkey has implemented a task force to tighten its internal Asian-European border and is looking for international cooperation.
Turkey sees our role as kind of an intermediate, as we can use the advice and the examples from European countries, but we hope that we can actually lead and help some of the other Asian countries.
Russia ought to avail itself of the opportunity. An anti-corruption partnership with Turkey, as well as its NATO allies, will indicate to the global community, and more importantly to mafias, that Russia has repented of its crimes. Non-governmental organizations and pharmaceutical companies must demonstrate equal commitment. Reports suggest that Merck & Co. bribed Chinese officials and ran drug trials with patients at Médecins Sans Frontières. All parties have denied wrongdoing, and MSF asserts that its physicians were duped. MSF's personnel were involved in a similar incident in Nigeria in 1996. The brunt of the blame lies with the willfully guilty. However, NGOs must work harder to monitor the pharmaceuticals they administer, particularly in regions known for endemic corruption. They must be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. This has been Nathan Gamble for The Economist. This is Nathan Gamble, Editor-in-Chief for The Economist. Homer's Odyssey is an epic on corruption. Unpredictable gods, who might as well be wars and despotic world leaders, dash Odysseus on Calypso's island, where he was seduced, perhaps by superficial international alliances. Odysseus escaped and battled his way home. There he found his home overrun by ancient equivalent of a mafia. By allying himself with the virtuous goddess and his now mature son, Odysseus slays his foes and brings Economia to his native land. The ending could easily be a foreshadowing of MonWHO 2013 and the virtuous warrior Brazil, the American god Lady Liberty, and the brawny youth Uganda. MonWHO's plan may well replace economic exploitation with economia in healthcare. I'm Nathan Gamble, and this is The Economist.